I'm Ken Shopman. I'm a volunteer here at 40 Plus and a member of the board. I know we did this a minute ago, but just as a refresh, how many folks here for the first time? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming, and thanks for those of you who have been here before. I'm not Eric Herding, as you said on the agenda. I'm Eric's traveling, so I'll be happy to welcome you. And we're going to change things up a little bit for those who've been here before, or perhaps not in the last couple of weeks. We're going to get you talking in just a minute. But I want to give you a quick overview of our organization and some of the opportunities that we have. And then I'll introduce Lynn, and she'll take it away. For those of you who are new or perhaps haven't been here in a while, we're delighted to be in our new location. We've been here since about October. Terrific new vitality for our organization. 40 Plus is a peer community. It's peers helping peers, supporting professionals in career transition, like me, like all of us. And we do that, I think, in 3 principal ways. The first is this program, our Monday morning speaker series. It's a service to the community. These events are always free and open to the public. So if you know people, other colleagues, peers, professionals who are looking at a transition, they may be employed now, but if they have some flexibility in their schedule, have them join us. Our speakers here on Monday are broadly in one of 2 areas. Coaches, counselors, advisors like Lynn, who can help us on not only the tactical aspects of search, but also the issues that come up around the whole person, ranging from your confidence, your finances, your emotional intelligence, personal branding. And then the other channel or direction that we look at for speakers are practitioners, and I think Lynn fits this category too. Practitioners, experts in specific industries and professions. They can give us an insight and an update on what's relevant in those worlds today. What do you need to know to be a successful marketing professional, financial professional, association professional, IT, those types of things. So those are, again, another type of speaker that we have here on Mondays. So again, encourage your friends to join us. The second part of our program are evening events. Once a month, we host an evening program right here, usually on a Thursday evening from 7 to 9. And those speakers, either an individual or a panel, will talk about another topic that's a little broader, because we want to engage people who are working and otherwise busy during the day, because quite honestly, their networking contacts may be especially valuable for us in a career transition. For example, last month we talked about the business case for emotional intelligence. Quite honestly, at the stage in our career, emotional intelligence is an advantage for us. We know ourselves, we know other people, we know what's important to us. And we think we can demonstrate that in an interviewing setting, a networking setting, and on the job. That gives us a leg up in the marketplace. So that's an example of the kinds of programs we have in the evening. In September, we have a special program, a panel of alumni from 40 Plus recently, who have all landed in the financial services sector. So they're going to come talk to us about what that transition has been like for them. I think it's fair to say that none of them were in that sector before, so it's a learning experience, been a learning experience for them, and they're going to come share lessons learned in their experience. But the heart of 40 Plus is our comprehensive 4-week training program. It's 45 hours in the classroom, right next door. Small groups, no more than 7 people at a time. We're delighted to have a couple of recent graduates that are going to talk to us after our speaker this afternoon. And I recognize some other familiar faces of recent graduates from our program. So if any questions about the course, please talk to any of us. The course really does help people, no matter where you are in the process, whether you've been in the search for a week, a month, a year, or longer. We try to take every aspect of the process, from your resume, your social media, LinkedIn, your interviewing techniques and skills. We do a lot of video work in the class to capture how you're coming across from the other side of the table, to help you refine and hone your message, built on the success that you've created and the impact that you've generated in the past, and help you communicate that in ways that are relevant for the future. 40 Plus, over its nearly 65 years here in Washington, has helped more than 9,000 professionals through our program land faster. And we're very proud of the fact that here in 2017, we're experiencing students landing even before the 4-week class is completed, including one of our most recent participants in the last class. So for those of you who are new, after our program today, our friend Tom Goodwin, another 40 Plus board member, Tom's in the back, We'll have a chance to speak with you a little bit, tell you a little bit more about 40 Plus and answer any questions you have. But for the rest of us, now we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to go around the room very quickly. Try not to take more than 30 seconds. You might have seen on the slides a few minutes ago what we want you to cover. Who you are, so your name, your background, profession, and what brought you here today. Okay? And we're just going to go around the room quickly, and then I'm going to introduce Lynn and we'll get started. So I'll start. I'm Ken Shopman. I'm an association executive with more than 25 years experience building and creating value for membership communities around the world. I'm an active member here at 40 Plus. I've been on the board for the last few months, been involved for about 2 years. I coordinate these programs each Monday morning, and I'm delighted to see so many people here. So, Gina, we're going to go to you next.
Hello, my name is Gina Manley. I'm an events and operations guru. I have worked in a nonprofit, political, and government sectors. My specialty are running events and operations efficiently and under budget. I am on the Operations Council as well as lead special events. So if you want to volunteer, come see us.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, my name is Ileana Mendez, and I'm a graphic designer, and I've spent most of my career doing branding, and I am here because I need to be here.
Let's see, we'll jump to the next row. Mark.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mark Tallheimer, and I'm a long-time supporter, I guess, of 40 Plus. I've been on the board and facilitate classes. And I'm here this morning because I was intrigued by our presenter's description of her talk, and I thought it would be good for me to come down and get a little energized going into the fall. So that's what I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning, hi.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Lauren. I'm a retired English professor. I'm looking forward to returning to that field or something which calls on similar skills, or preferably full-time or part-time.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'm George Alexander. I'm a retired military person. I am a medical consultant, and my areas are Homeland Security, defense, healthcare, and I'm happy to be here. The reason I'm here today, I think that the topic this morning is quite fascinating, and that's what attracted me to this event.
Hello.
My name is Robert States, and been unemployed for about 2 weeks. My wife, when I told her I wanted to go to something like this, she told me, well, it's a little bit too early.
Nope.
You maybe wait a couple of months.
Nope.
But I felt the need to learn more about trying to find a new job and to go to that next level.
Thanks for coming. Yes, ma'am.
Teresa Robleski. I'm a retired chiropractor. I'm just trying to reinvent myself because I'm getting quite bored with not having much structure to my life right now. And I came to this topic because I find that Monday morning, if I have nothing better to do, I should come over.
Out from behind the computer. Engage with people. Learn something. Yes, Justin, hi.
I'm Justin Lebto. I'm a career person in environmental consulting and archaeology in specific, and just moved back to this area, and I'm looking to do a career change to something related.
We'll continue our zigzag. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Diana Artemis. I'm a visitor. I'm working full-time. I just snuck away this morning. But I'm really looking to do something meaningful in stuff I volunteered with over the years, like environment, patient safety, and more things like that.
Great. Thanks for coming. Yes, sir. Come over here.
Hi, I'm Rob Nelson. I'm a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer. 2 years ago, I went back to school and just finished my Master's in International Affairs. I graduated in January, and I've been job seeking ever since. So this is kind of an effort for me to re-energize my job, my program. After 8 months, it's been kind of, I hit a plateau, and actually, so this is my commitment to 2 events per week, and I found it on Meetup.
Great. Over here. Scott, hi.
Hi, good morning. I'm Scott Morris. I'm graduating from the most recent 40 Plus class, and you'll be hearing a little bit more about me. I'll be telling you a little bit more about myself a little later on this morning. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Carol Cook. I'm a professional fundraiser, and I am a member of Toastmasters International, and this charming man who's doing the videotaping, Jim Chamberlain, has introduced me to 40 Plus, and I love it, okay? I get so much out of it when I come on Monday mornings, okay? And this topic really intrigued me. I couldn't wait to come to this one.
Oh, no.
Thank
High
you.
expectations.
Yes, sir, we'll grab you on the side.
Yeah, hi, my name is Tom King. I was here 5 years ago, went through the program, found a consulting job. I haven't had recent assignments with the current consulting firm and figured I'd better get a jump on it. If anybody knows somebody at Marriott, I have a couple positions there I'm interested in now.
At Marriott.
At Marriott,
Okay.
yes.
Great. Kathy?
Hi, good morning. Happy Solar Eclipse Day. I'm a strategic communications consultant with 20 years experience. I advise corporations, associations, and nonprofits on their communications messaging and positioning platforms to manage complex issues, influence policy, and engage stakeholders. I'm also on the board for the U.S. National Committee for UN Women. That's my personal passion, is gender equality issues. And I'm just always looking to up-level my knowledge and skills, so that's why I'm here.
Hi. Yes, Nicole.
Good morning, I'm Nicole Cho, and I moved to DC around about a year ago, and looking for employment because I spent 16 years working at the same chemical company in New Jersey. My background is a bachelor in chemistry, have a master's in business administration, and I'm completing my PhD in chemistry in New Jersey, so I go once in a while to discuss my dissertation. So for about a year now, when I haven't found anything, I said I better be proactive and start to really be aggressive about looking for.
So in the world of amazing coincidences, do you know that the American Chemical Society's annual meeting is taking place right down the street at the Convention Center? So you might want to crash later.
Thank you.
You know, it's the world's largest professional society, so could be some coincidental opportunities there. Think about it. Going over, yes, hi.
My name is Sarah Allen. I have a background in corporate finance and government contracting, and I'm here today to hear the speaker.
Great. Well, glad you're here.
Hi, my name is Ione Swenson. I am an educator, most recently with professional development and training, and I can do you one better. I love coming in Monday mornings from outside the Beltway in the traffic. It's just my favorite thing.
All right.
I work remotely, and I love to network and to hear about how we can better help ourselves. And after reading Nicholas Kristof's book, Half the Sky, I've become really interested in converting to women's and children's issues globally. So.
Hi, my name is Joyce Berman. I'm a marketing communications development professional, and I am definitely in the Monday morning drag yourself out of bed and make something happen category, but I was interested in your topic as well, and I'm definitely more of a local versus global person.
That's good too.
Mark?
Good morning. My name is Mark Friedman. I'm an operations manager. The reason I'm down here today is I'm a recent graduate of the 40 Plus program. Our group gets together periodically. We did it this morning right down the street, and then we all meandered on over here to hear the speaker. So that's what brings me down this morning.
My name is Adam Diamond. I'm also a recent graduate of the 40 Plus training program with Mark, and I was at the job club with him, working most recently at American University, teaching and research on food systems and agricultural policy. I also worked at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, so I'm looking for work in consulting for NGOs related to food systems and particularly supply chains.
Good morning, my name is Ula Wojciechowska, and I'm also a recent graduate of 40 Plus. I'm a passionate project manager, and I'm looking into opportunities in clinical project management. So if you hear of anyone who needs a passionate individual, I'm right here. We can talk later. And then we will also have a small presentation for you after the speaker. And I also want to learn how I can better sell myself.
Tom, because you're there.
Hi, because I'm here. Hi, my name is Tom Goodwin. I have about 35 years in the employment profession. I was an employment manager for a number of Fortune 500 companies with government contracts, predominantly in the intelligence community. Also, I was a headhunter years ago in Silicon Valley. I'm retired, and I've been affiliated with 40 Plus for about 10, 15 years, facilitating the programs. My passion is to help people find the job they deserve. So in my role in 40 Plus, I try to entice people to consider taking our program, because my experience has shown working with 40 Plus that it really helps tremendously to get you over that hump to get out there and make things happen. So after this program this morning, I'd like to talk with the first timers or anybody else that would like to hear a refresher on our program. Thank you.
Well, great. Thanks, everyone. I hope you heard some connections or some potential connections for folks that may be in your world or close to your world, and we'll invite you to connect with them after our speaker this morning. One last announcement, and then I'll get on to our introductions. For those of you who are interested, there is a career fair that we'll be participating at later this week on Wednesday over at the Doubletree in Arlington. I want to be clear, and I want to set your expectations fairly. These are not necessarily professional level positions. You'll see here a number of security organizations, security services, law enforcement organizations, some retail perhaps, hospitality, and so forth. But it could be an opportunity for you to network, to make connections, and almost also to practice your introduction, your tell me about yourself message, just learning more about how to make more out of these networking opportunities. I'm pretty sure it's free. Yes, it's free for folks to participate. So we'll be there to meet more people as well. Again, the Doubletree Hotel in Arlington, and there are more flyers on the table. Okay, on with the show. Oh, lastly, feedback forms. Please take a moment at the end of the program. You can leave them on your chairs or turn them into me or Tom. We really do want to improve and move things forward. And that introduction cycle that we just went through, that was directly as a result of feedback we got through our surveys, because people wanted to know more about the audience that they were participating with, not just they weren't just passengers on the plane. So give us your ideas. If there's speakers you'd like to hear from, or topics you'd like to hear about, let us know. We'll do our best to bring them in. All right, Lynn, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us. Lynn Smith is a business development and sales leadership professional with unique experience in Brazil and working with government industry interests there. She's a successful sales leader with broad experience across the U.S. and internationally. Her specialties are new business development, including managing complex sales cycles, project management, and profit and loss performance. She is seeking a new opportunity with another successful organization. Her prior experience includes work with 28 strategy execution, maybe you should tell us about that, as well as Legislate, a database service, I believe still owned by the Washington Post.
Long since out of business.
Long since out of business. Yeah. Gone. So, and she has a business degree from George Washington University, undergraduate from Virginia Tech. So, Lynn, it's all yours. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Thank you for coming, especially on this important day. I hope everyone has their eclipse glasses. How many are planning on watching this afternoon? Oh, not many. I'm really excited about it personally. I went out and got the glasses, went out to my mom's. Well, anyway, I promised to make sure we finish on time. I think my presentation is about an hour. So if you are going to watch the event, you'll be home in time. So as Ken mentioned in my introduction, my background is in sales, primarily in sales leadership management positions for most of my career, but started out as a salesperson. So happy to do both. I've done both, and most recently that was what my role was before I transitioned to kind of be on my own. So I've worked for technology, communications, consulting and training companies in the U.S. and Brazil. So I first want to ask, is there anyone in the audience that is a salesperson or has a sales background? Is it everyone? Everyone. Right. But as a profession? No? Okay. Long time ago. Okay. So
I think fundraising and sales are kind of
similar. I would agree. It is definitely a flavor of sales. So my second question is, if you haven't been a salesperson, is anyone aspiring to become one, a professional salesperson?
As a backup plan.
As a backup plan, okay. So you are?
Well, I work at H&R Block, I do taxes as well.
Okay, so that's a customer serving role. Okay, so I
That's all my ideas.
that's correct, right. So that was what I thought would probably play out in terms of the questions, that not many people are in sales and not many people want to be in sales, because it's a hard job, and we're going to go through some of what you have to do to be successful. So why am I here today? What I'm going to talk to you about is how I put together a plan using my selling experience to help some of my friends' kids who had just recently graduated from college. Both of them are really smart kids, they have good educations, but they really didn't have the first clue about how to go out and market themselves. So I essentially put together a framework or a process for them on how to go about finding their job, not by reacting or responding to a job advertisement, but by proactively reaching out to organizations and individuals who would benefit from their education and work experience. So I'm proud to say that I'm 2 for 2. Both individuals use my approach and are now working in roles that are definitely in their field and what they were interested in doing. As a result, I've had other referrals, and I'm starting to work with some other individuals that are more mid-career and senior level. So that's why I'm here. I'm going to share this process and methodology with you. I'm hoping you can take some of what you learn to find that next great job. And if I'm really good after this presentation, you might decide that you want to pursue a career in sales. So, clicker.
There we go.
So this is what we're going to talk about this morning. I'm basically going to make you a salesperson to sell the most valuable thing, that's you. We are going to review how to put together a plan. Every good salesperson doesn't just pick up the phone and start making phone calls to his prospects unless he has done his research first. We are then going to review the prospecting phase, which is probably the least liked for anyone, but is critical if you want to have results. We will then look at how to keep yourself accountable to yourself by tracking your activity. And I'll share with you a template that I created that were used by both Andrea and Alex, which are the two friends' kids that I helped. And then finally, we will talk about your creating rewards for yourself, especially when you close that sale, which is your next job. So before I begin, does anyone have any questions? Okay. Proactive, not reactive. So you'll notice that I may ask several questions along the way. And actually, just so you know, asking a lot of questions is a trait of a good salesperson. So remember that when you're in interviews, asking questions is also a good thing to do. So first of all, it would be helpful for me to get a sense of everyone that's here this morning, how you are actually job searching, if in fact you are job searching. I've got 3 questions that I'll pose, and then I'll ask each one, and I'd like to get your response, okay? So the first one is, how many of you are only responding to posted job ads, like on a company website or from Indeed.com, that kind of thing? Second question is, how many of you are responding to posted job ads, but are also networking and asking for referrals? And then the third question is, who is only networking and asking for referrals and not responding to posted job ads? Okay, so I'll ask those questions, and I'd just like to get a show of hands of what everyone's doing. So first question, who is only responding to advertised job positions? Okay, 1 person.
2,
people.
3.
3. Okay. How many people are responding to job ads, postings, and networking? Okay, that's the majority, that's good. And then third, who is just networking and not responding to job postings? Okay, so 3 for the first question, that's about right. So good, that's very encouraging that you all are using a mix of approaches, because that's really what I'm talking about today. The reason I bring this up is because statistics show that between 70 and 80% of jobs are not advertised. that figure may actually be higher. I've heard as high as 90%. And even more sobering is that jobs that are posted, your chances of actually getting that job are somewhere between 3 and 5%. Pretty low odds, right? So think about this for a minute. If you were a salesperson and you had a big quota to make, quota is the term we use for the amount of revenue that a salesperson has to generate each year, in case you didn't know that. If this salesperson thought her odds of making her quota could be done by just responding to inbound leads or requests for proposals, i.e. being reactive, do you think she would just use that approach? The odds are not that great, right? In order to make her quota, she needs to control her situation and not let it control her. She needs to find enough prospects that can turn into sold clients. If a salesperson doesn't make their quota, it's usually not a good thing because salespeople are judged for their performance. So I would say a salesperson would never be successful by just responding to RFPs and not going out and actually hustling for the business. And I saw that firsthand because I manage a lot of salesperson. So being proactive, this little box here on the bottom, if you can't read it, says being proactive rather than reactive means to control a situation rather than letting it control you. Okay, so that's what we were focusing on today, is how to be proactive and not reactive. So before we jump into the mechanics of what I call doing your job search with the sales process approach, I just want to level set by giving you a little definition of what a sales process is, what a sales methodology is, because those terms are used, and you may or may not be familiar with them. So first off, a lot of people are surprised that salespeople actually use a process or a methodology at all. If you haven't interacted with the salespeople, sometimes it looks like they're just winging it and just hoping for the best, throwing stuff against the wall and saying, let's see what sticks. The good ones don't do that. The good ones actually go through the process and make sure that they're checking off all the boxes so that they can be successful in closing the deal. It's a series of predictable and repeatable phases that a salesperson takes in order to get to the end, which is to close the deal. A sales methodology is really something that refers to the framework of how different parts of the sales process are actually carried out. So as we go through this, we're really just talking about a sales process, and the sales process is really the what, okay? The sales methodology is the how, so we're going to talk about using both of these in your job search. All right, sales process. First phase. There's actually 4 phases before I get through them. I'll mention them quickly before I go through them all. Preparation, contact, follow-up, and close. Preparation and research. This is really the most important part of the process. You don't do your preparation up front, then the rest of the process may or may not work out the way you want it to. This is putting your plan in place. It requires doing the research. If you're in sales, you're trying to look for your best prospects to determine, what business problems they have, and then linking those business problems to whatever service or product you're offering that you can help solve. There are, different organizations, looking at individuals that you want to work with in your job search. You're looking at, okay, what's my perfect scenario? Where do I want to go? What kind of organization? A big size, small size? Who are the kinds of people that would potentially hire me? So you're trying to find your decision maker, right? You're trying to find out who can use the skills or knowledge or experience that you have to help them with their business, right? So we're talking about, when I say job search using a sales process, you're essentially prospecting individuals and organizations that you think could find value in whatever your experience is, okay? So I just want to make sure everyone understands this is taking into consideration that you are reaching out to individuals that may or may not have job openings, right? Because as we heard earlier, 70 to 80% or more positions are never ever advertised. So this approach is really focusing on finding people that once you meet them and you share with them how great you are, they will say, I need to hire this person because they can help me. That's the whole kind of premise behind this approach, okay? Yes, it takes a lot of time. Preparation, again, if you don't do it, your results, you know, you may be successful, but your results also may be very uncertain. Next step, contact. Okay. Contact is kind of a nice way of saying prospecting. I'm sure you've heard the word prospecting. It's what salespeople do to make phone calls, send out emails to try to get somebody's attention. Most salespeople hate the idea of prospecting because it requires to reach out to people that don't know them, may not answer the phone, may not return the email, may, if they answer the phone, hang up on them, may, you know, do a lot of things. So it's a very low gratifying activity, but it's important. And in your job search, you know, you have to make contact, right? This is part of like networking and getting referrals, and right, if you don't make the contacts, you're not going to have what we're going to talk about next is follow-up and activity, okay? So think about your timing of reaching out. I just want to throw in one little thing about when I was helping Alex, you know, see his whole kind of two-step process of what he did, and he was talking about when he was sending his emails. So he said, you know, I'll send them, you know, maybe I met with him on Friday. He said, I think I'll send them Monday morning. I'm like, well, Alex, think about it. Monday morning, like at 10 o'clock, that's not a good time to send an email because you're not going to get that person's attention. You want to send an email or make a phone call when you think that person is either one, going to read the email or two, going to get the phone. So, you know, the timing for that is variable, right? Some people start early, some people work late. But my experience has been if you send an email especially, do it midweek and do it either first thing in the morning or sometime in the evening. And you have a better chance of someone actually looking at it versus it getting lost in all the emails that they're getting, you know, throughout the day for their company.
So I'm sorry, so you think a cold call prospect by email, the best timing is sort of like 10 a.m. Wednesday morning or
no.
the evening before?
No, I would do, if I were sending it Tuesday, I think is the best day.
Tuesday.
And I would do it early morning, like 7, between 7 and 8. So it's the first email that pops up when they are on the metro or driving to work. They may not read it, but they'll at least see your name, you know, and that. Or wait till in the evening, because a lot of people wait to get home. They have dinner, you know, around 8 or 9 o'clock. They might check their email before they go to bed. You just are looking for that opportunity to get their attention versus it getting sent and it just being lost in everything else. Right, Monday morning is not, you should be coming to 40 plus. You're doing it 10 o'clock on Monday. So don't send your emails, but more importantly, Monday morning, start of somebody's work week, they're probably not gonna look at it. Okay? Okay, so moving on. So follow-up. I call this follow-up and accountability. You know, the follow-up is reaching out to your prospects. So let's say, you know, there's two kinds of ways to prospect. One would be if, you know, I told Patty that, hey, Patty, I know somebody who works for that organization that needs an attorney. And you would hope that Patty then would say, oh, sounds like a prospect, I should reach out. So that's actually following up and making contact with that person. The other would be, what I'm going to focus on first is, okay, putting together, you know, a list of prospects and contacts and then actually reaching out to them, okay? The follow-up is not just what I call one and done, all right? You don't just make one phone call or send one email and say, okay, I did it. They don't ever respond, right? We're going to see some statistics later that will probably blow your mind in terms of how many times it takes to actually make an impression and then actually make a sale in terms of making contact. You also want to keep contacting folks because you want to make sure that you are top of mind for them, right? If you send one email and then never respond, then you've lost them. But if you send an email or make a phone call and you wait a period of time and do it again, it's that whole kind of analogy to advertising, right? So they say in a magazine, you have to see an advertisement 6 to 10 times or something like that. 7 times. Okay, Gina says 7 times before it makes an impression. So think of you advertising yourself, selling yourself, that it may take 7 times before somebody really says, oh gosh, why is George emailing me again? And they finally just open up your email and they look at what you're trying to say and they're like, you know what, I need to meet this guy. So keep that in mind. Persistence is really the name of the game. But the follow-up, I think, in sales and actually in going through this process with Alex and Andrea was really the accountability factor. And my deal with them was, I'm going to help you, and this is just for me, for free, because your parents are my friends. But in order for you to get my help and my expertise, you need to show me that you're doing what I'm coaching you to do. And so I kept probably better track of Alex than I did Andrea, because she's remote. But I was actually really surprised and gratified that he did as much follow-up and was as accountable as he was at 23 years old. So we're going to see, I'll give you an example later of his tracking spreadsheet. And then the 4th phase, which is the close and the celebrate, that's the whole process of getting to where you want to be at your end game. If you're in sales, you want to get your contract, right? If you're searching for a job, you want to get that job offer. So the close phase is important because you want to make sure, I think in terms of job searching, what are you looking for as your goal that once you get that job? How are you going to reward yourself? Are you going to take a mini vacation? You're going to go out to dinner? Think about how you're going to reward yourself for the big win, but also for the small wins. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, next slide. All right, sales methodology. I'm not going to spend much time on this because it's not really relevant to what we're talking about today, which is in terms of job searching. But what I said earlier is the sales methodology is really the how of it. And there's several sales methodologies that salespeople use. We've probably heard consultative selling and challenger sale, and those are just methodologies that organizations have created for salespeople to follow in their sales process. So essentially what we're doing today is you're getting my methodology of how to find a job using a sales process. So we call it the Lynn's job searching methodology, I guess. Okay. All right. So now we're going to dive into the mechanics. And I know it's probably difficult to see in the back. This, I'll use my clicker for the first time. Oops. This is Alex Utano, who is my friend's son. Actually, this was a document that a friend of my friend Julie's put together for him. I thought it looks pretty awesome in terms of just, if you're thinking about a marketing document. I don't know if I put my picture on it as a senior level person, but I liked how they laid out, who he was, his picture, his professional goals, education, skills, and then this is kind of essentially a summary of his work experience. We're going to talk about his passion for hockey and what he really wants to do in terms of working for a hockey team. So this is just the introduction to Alex. He's one of the 2 Friends kids that I mentioned that I did work with. He had graduated from Ohio University with a degree in broadcasting and journalism, I believe. He did a lot of internships, actually doing broadcasting for the college or the university's hockey team. So his dream job is to be a hockey broadcaster. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but it's doing the play-by-play.
Sure.
That's what he wants to do. And he didn't have his eyes set on Major League because he said that's probably going to be too challenging, but maybe I can get a job in the minor league. And so his focus was primarily that, but he also knew that his dream job may not materialize. So if he put all of his eggs in that basket, it may not yield results. So in parallel and in tandem, he was also searching for positions that were in really any organization that could utilize his marketing, social media, communications, videography, broadcasting skills. So what we're going to talk about is those two job search using a sales process. It took approximately 3 months for him to go from, starting to work with me, graduating from college, and then starting his position. He did get a job.
Great.
I'll wait and tell you what that job is at the end to keep a little suspense going. So as we go through the job search, here's what I'd like for you to do. Is I would like you to think about the kinds of organizations that you would like to work for. Who are the individuals that you would need to contact to sell yourself? And what, probably most importantly, what is your value proposition to these prospective employers? In the following slides, we're going to go through the 4-step process. And as I mentioned, we're going to go through this twice, once with hockey teams and then with everything else.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
For you? So, I mean, is this what the younger people are doing now as far as the color and the template? I'm thinking, wow, if this is what it's like, mine looks really dated.
I actually just put this up there.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. So I just put this up there because I just wanted to have you meet Alex.
No, I mean, I love
but
the
I
format.
I will find out, to be honest, I don't know what kind of software was used. And
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Where's the template for this one?
So I just want to mention I'm in the process of redoing my resume, and I just went online and literally just saw this very similar resume. If you go online and just look resume templates, there's some people there, I think it's like $15 or $25 to download a template like that. And my issue is, like making it all work, but I'm just going to hire somebody to help me with that. But I think, I think that is a good way to make yourself stand out.
Definitely, I can.
But I would have a concern about applicant tracking systems, because is it going to, my concern would be that it's going to see that as a graphic or garbage and you're going to get kicked out.
Yes, I would agree. So how Alex used this was I don't know that he actually sent it out, but he put this on his LinkedIn profile, I believe under the summary, I believe.
Right.
So it was there, he's got his picture, you'll see it at the end when I show you his job.
So he put all of that in the white part in LinkedIn?
No, this document is just a one-page, probably PDF file. I don't know how it was created, what kind of software.
On LinkedIn, you can add PDFs.
Yeah.
It's like an attachment.
Or a picture.
Attachments and stuff like that.
Right.
Two things. One is on a Mac, you have access to all templates that are free. All sorts of things that are one-pagers, that are brochures, that are anything like that. So, and a lot of that's free also under Microsoft.com. People, they really use stuff. Also, I think that absolutely when you send things, it has to be very clear, just text, that stuff. But when you're contacting someone directly and you have attachments, have the opportunity, what I do is something like this, but that's my bio. So I say I've enclosed, because a lot of times it's so nice to, in addition to a cover letter and a resume, if you have a professional bio, and it just shows that you really kind of are out there, and it's something that in a one-pager people can see everything. Right. But they're not going to necessarily rely on that when they want to see a resume and a cover letter in the traditional way.
Right. I went online a couple weeks ago. There was a lady named Francine Olson.
Sure.
Yeah, and she did a presentation on creating
Marketing
a marketing plan, and it's really good. So I watched it on YouTube just because I was concerned her topic was going to overlap with mine, which it doesn't. But it was really good. She does, I think, coaching with McLean Bible Church. And anyway, the kind of the basic concept is having together a one-page marketing plan, right? This is what you would give to somebody if you were asking somebody for help in terms of helping their referral, helping in your networking. The marketing plan might not be something you would actually send to somebody. This, I think for a 23-year-old, it might be okay in terms of, I don't know if as a seasoned professional, I would send this out, but I might put it on my
Pictures.
LinkedIn.
I was
I
gonna
might put
say,
it on LinkedIn.
it looks like a capability statement, like very much like a marketing piece
Right.
that, you know, like a consultant would send out. I don't know if that's kind of the message that we want to send though, because that's the association that I make.
No, I agree with you. I would use this, you know, in a limited basis and maybe only put it on LinkedIn
I think
as
I
part
would,
of my marketing.
For me,
myself.
I would only send that to an individual. I wouldn't send it, I would not put it through the, I think somebody else expressed concern about its readability with respect to, you know, corporate, you know, recruiting systems. I don't think it would pass that, but, you know, on an individual level, this might work. Yeah, you have to gauge that person's, you know.
In the context of your 4 points, I can see this with the prospecting, because it's not like your classic resume, but it's an introduction. I think this would be really good to send in that context.
Right, and we'll talk a little bit more later about, you know, trying different approaches, but if it makes you feel uncomfortable, maybe you want to take something like this and do something with it, right? Just to see what kind of reaction you get, because sometimes we tend to shy away from things and like, ooh, I don't know how that's going to work. Well, you have nothing to lose, right? You know, I used to tell salespeople they had no deals. I was like, you have nothing to lose right now. Go for it, because you currently have nothing. So nothing from nothing is nothing. And if you try something, it might turn out to be something. So anyway, I will try to find what software this was used. If somebody said Mac, Patty, I don't know if this could be done on a Mac, but if you want to email me, I'll tell you what it is once I find out.
Could you just elaborate a little further on the value proposition that you're talking about?
Okay.
What is the value proposition that you would have to offer employers?
Okay.
An
So,
example?
George, have you gone through the 40 Plus training program? Okay. So, part of what we teach in the 40 Plus training program, I went through it, I guess, 4 years ago, are really putting together your resume, your cover letter, interviewing skills, etc. But one of the things that we really focus on is creating what we call success bites. And success bites are examples of work that you did that solved a problem. So for example, one of my success bites is during the downturn in the economy, we lost all of our funding for marketing. So we still were expected to sell stuff, but we had no marketing. So I actually said, well, wait a minute, LinkedIn is a great source, it's free. How can we find old customers who might become new customers where, you know, if they've gone to a new place of employment? I hired an intern for $8 an hour. We spent hours looking at people, finding out where they were, and we used that list. So within a couple months, we actually found and sold $400,000 in business by just using, they were warm leads, and the salespeople loved it because they were people that already knew the company that we were working for, because they had worked with us in a previous place. So that's one of my kind of success bites, or what I would say to a company that I would want to work for, is that I'm very innovative. Right? I can look at a situation and say, wow, how can we do this differently or better or whatever. So that's what it is. The value proposition is, what do you bring to the table and what can you offer that employer? That's where the preparation in terms of research, right? So if you're going to work for an organization and you see that, you know, in my case it would be, you know, their sales vice president just recently left and their revenue was in decline. Well, I could reach out to the CEO or, you know, the vice president, CFO, or whoever the highest level person, and say, you know what, I've got a really good background in bringing in new revenue, and you know, I'd like the opportunity to talk to you about my background. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
Yeah, I also have a comment. I would see a great use of this type of document when you go for the informational interviews, when you actually don't want to pass your resume because it's not meant to be you like
Good
asking
point.
specifically
Yeah.
for the job. But if a person has at least something tangible, it's more likely that if they hear of a job or if they know someone who is looking for a job, they can have your contact information or they can even pass it to someone. So I would use it probably during my informational interview process as a marketing piece.
Right. So
I'm not sure
somebody-
if this is good.
In which case you might want to keep the picture on there too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
You know.
so that you
This
can.
might be a side business, right?
Yeah.
Making these documents.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right. No, seriously, like, I'm just thinking, there's lots of people here that are interested.
I know.
Right? And it's not, you're basically just extracting things that you already have from a resume, right? Well, good, we came up with, another approach.
No business, no.
And Alex will be, I almost invited Alex because he works odd hours, and then I thought, I don't know if a 23-year-old.
Yeah, sure.
I'm comfortable sitting here with this group
Sure.
of people, but anyway. Okay, so moving on. All right, so, as I mentioned, we're going to go through this quote-unquote job search sales process twice. The first go-round is going to be focused on what he's been doing with hockey organizations. There are approximately 200 major and minor hockey leagues in the US and Canada, apparently. And so he went and found all of those organizations, and he compiled a spreadsheet that included the organization name. He also, I'm going to skip down to bullet 3, identified the hiring decision makers. He knew from talking to other people who are in the business the kind of person that hires for the kinds of skills he has. And he focused in on individuals that had either a VP or director title of operations or broadcasting. So this is kind of an easy job search in some ways, because every hockey organization has somebody who oversees operations and or broadcasting. So he had 200 individuals that he found, he put in the spreadsheet. With that information that he put in the spreadsheet in terms of just their names and organization, was also their email address, their phone numbers, their mailing address, and then I'll show you later what he did in terms of using a tracking spreadsheet. Some of you may be thinking, well, how did he get email addresses and phone numbers? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, but finish
Oh,
your
okay.
sentence.
That was part of the research. That was part of the preparation. So he just did that kind of what I call grunt, work that you've got to just reach out and figure out. Okay, so for the hockey, I think it's called the Hershey Bears. They're the minor league team up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Can I find somebody who works for the Hershey Bears? If I can't find, I don't remember, it was called Brian Jones. Brian Jones is the Senior Vice President of Operations. But I don't know what Brian Jones' email address. If you find somebody's email address that works for an organization, and you see that, Lynn Smith is lsmith@hersheybears.com, then you can probably assume that Brian Jones is going to be bjones@hersheybears.com, right? So you've got their email address, and you can try it that way. Phone numbers can be a little bit trickier, but surprisingly, sometimes senior level people, they put them on the websites. He didn't make a lot of phone calls, we'll get to that in a minute, but he did have email addresses and mailing addresses for every single team. He also researched just on LinkedIn, he used LinkedIn primarily to find out, okay, what are the kinds of positions that hockey organizations hire for with someone with his background, right? So it might have been, videographer, or, social media expert, or marketing assistant. So he was looking for any job title that then, when he was actually prospecting, his cover letter could address in the organization that he was talking to. Okay, I know you have on board, several videographers. My background, I've done this in college and in internships, and I'm very interested in working for you. So I think that's a very crucial step in terms of looking as you're kind of casting your wide net, really using LinkedIn to look at the organizations. And then finally, the preparation of the timeline. So this was really important for him for the hockey teams. So he graduated in May, and then we started the process. But hockey teams actually do a lot of their hiring over the summer, because I guess they start their training in the fall. There's a hockey club here, you probably know more than me. But I guess they start the training, and they want to have their folks in place before the season actually begins. So his sales cycle was essentially May through August. So the sales cycle is still in play right now, because they're still looking to hire people. But it gave him a sense of urgency, and it's always good in sales to have a sense of urgency, right? So to get to the right people. So before I continue, did you have a question?
So my question is about number 3, identifying hiring decision makers. So I've kind of followed all those steps, and this is kind of where I am.
Okay.
Some organizations, when you research them online, have a contact us, and you are able to find job titles of people, who's the director, who's this and who's that. Sometimes other organizations deliberately make it kind of convoluted, so you can't really kind of, within the HR department, identify decision makers for certain positions. When I talk to people who are in certain jobs, they say sometimes it's the director of where that job is who's the hiring manager.
Right.
Sometimes it's an HR person who screens the first level of applicants to get the pile down to hand the ones who make it to someone else to review. I know someone who sits on, actually, he's on a panel to interview people today. So I've been getting a lot of information about that. Trying to find that spider chart or that organizational chart of an organization I thought was a good way to identify organizational structures and try to target somebody. That worked really well in government. It's not as easy to do, like you said, depending on what size the organization is. So for 40 plus, I'd like to see some more research techniques to, hack through the jungle and find that decision maker. That's a key, because I don't want to spend a lot of time, like you said, throwing us up against the wall and seeing what sticks. I want to target somebody and aim and hit the target.
Okay.
So finding the decision maker and the hiring manager is sort of where I need a lot of assistance.
Okay, so a good question and good points. So what you're describing is decision maker. You're saying, please contact us. There's a position. Are you referring to a positions open, or are you looking at organizations where you might want to work?
The way I'm looking at it for my job search is if someone doesn't have a posting and I'm prospecting, then I'm going to target what the highest level title is in that department. For instance, I'm interested in working somewhere with the disabilities aspect of Kennedy Center providing, they have a department of disability and accessibility to their programs. They also do programming for disabilities. So since disabilities is my area, so I went to an event and talked to someone to try to find who that hiring manager was. And I did get a name. I don't know if that's exactly how, so that's all I have, so I have to target that person and hope if they're the wrong person, they pass it on to someone else.
Right. So when I say identify hiring decision makers, in his process, he had 200 teams he was going after, and there were 200 VP or directors of operations or broadcasting. So those were, I guess my point here is those people, he wanted to talk to those people and not the broadcasting assistant, right? What you're describing is when you're kind of like, okay, the world is my ocean in terms of my next job. Where do I go, right? You're like, where do I start?
No, my question is targeted strategies. For in different types of, some large organizations have nice neat spider charts that tell you the hierarchy of chain of command and how to get to that top person who's probably the decision maker. Smaller organizations may be structured a little bit different. Sometimes when you go on a website, it says contact us, and you can see who's in charge and where you might want to send that. So I'm saying for 40 plus, like a workshop like today would be strategies, different situations where use this approach with this size organization, use this approach maybe with a federal organization, use this approach maybe with a nonprofit organization to target that hiring manager if it's not obvious.
Right. Yeah, so I would say, LinkedIn to me is the best resource. If you've got, I'm sure everybody's got LinkedIn. If you don't, you should have it if you're job searching. To go in and look at organizations like Kennedy Center, you could just go in and put in Kennedy Center, and you could get a list of every individual that works at Kennedy Center that's on LinkedIn.
Like a direct,
Right, and then you could look by title, say there might be somebody that is, I don't know where this would come under.
Disability and accessibility program.
Okay, so maybe under human resources, or I don't know how exactly where that would fall, but that's where prospecting really is you're taking a stab in the dark. You don't really know exactly where to go, so you have to start making the contacts, right? You need to start sending the emails, and you'd be surprised. I think I didn't put this in the lessons learned at the end that we'll go through, but it's coming to me now. One of the things that I found to be so amazing with his search was how many people were willing to help him. I said, just ask, just say, do you have any feedback for me, or what would you suggest? And it was amazing what people did. So I think it's not just for younger people, I think it's for people of all ages. When you ask somebody for help, I think it's in human nature for people to want to help. And if you don't ask, as I had a client tell me once, if you don't ASK, you don't GET, right? So you have to ask in order to get. Okay. And I would just encourage you, because I think there's more people out there that are willing to help than you realize sometimes.
Sorry, but if you do your job search on LinkedIn, it will tell you the connections.
Oh, correct.
So I have mine, and it tells you, like, I put in where I went to school and my connections, and it'll tell me, like, if I'm looking for events jobs, it'll tell me, like, Marriott, you have 4 connections there. Yep. So I just contact them if I like them most of the time.
Do you have a special subscription at LinkedIn? No. Just the regular?
I regular. I'm cheap.
Because if you charge paying money, they give you more money.
No premium. I've actually talked to the people at LinkedIn, and one of them who actually teaches something said, don't even bother.
Wow. I've had people who have had premiums, but they don't anymore, and they say that you don't really need the premium. You can really do it a lot on your own.
Yeah, I had it, and I stopped having it, just so you know you can sign up for it and get it for 30 days for free. So definitely take them up on their offer of 30 days for free. I did that once. So we've really gone through this already in terms of just what he was focusing, the contacts. So we had 200 contact names for vice president or director of operations, but he also went and found every team owner, because if you think about just the ultimate decision maker is the person that owns the team. And as part of this process, I encourage Alex to try different things. And so with the team owners, you'll see here in a minute what we did with that. If you're looking to reach out to organizations, don't be afraid to reach out to the CEO. I mean, how many CEOs are getting solicited for jobs? My guess is not that many, right? Because people would say, well, he or she would never respond to me. You'd be surprised. So, moving on. All right. So, resume and cover letter. We're not talking today about what a good resume or cover letter looks like. My point here in terms of just talking about what I did with Alex was he actually spent a good amount of time putting together his resume and cover letter that were both very customized and targeted for hockey organizations. And this is an important point because in 40 Plus, when you go through the training program, one of the things that we teach is that your resume needs to be customized to the opportunity that you want to get. You can't just have one resume and one cover letter that you throw out there, because it just doesn't work. We're living in a world where people's time is valuable. They're only going to spend 5 seconds to look at the first paragraph or first half of your resume, so you want to make sure something grabs their attention when they look at that. Okay?
Have you ever heard of JobScan?
Yes, I have. Do you want to tell everybody about JobScan?
JobScan is a great place to go. When you first sign on, they give it to you for free for a month. Then it's $49 a month. But you can get, I understand you can get some things, part of it free if you do, if you send some advertisement or notice to somebody you know. But JobScan actually goes right in and shows you what you need to add to your resume. It's amazing.
Yeah, check it out. It's JobScan.com.
In fact, at Arlington Employment Center, that's one they really, it's JobScanCO.com.
Okay, yeah, I would encourage people to look it out, especially if you're responding to a job advertisement, because it will help you with that. Okay. So main kind of point here is that the resume and cover letter, not only was it customized, but we revised it. We looked at where he was getting traction and said, okay, maybe we can change things, you know. So we changed it probably 3 or 4 times over the course of a couple months. So I would encourage you to do the same. And you might even try creating different versions of your resume, you know, and seeing what gets people's attentions. Same thing with subject lines and emails. He had such a great quote in his cover letter about all of his experience, and he said, I'm as comfortable in front of the camera as I am behind it. And I said, oh my gosh, that gives me chills. I think you need to use that as your subject line. And he did. And he put that, I'm like, just try it and see what happens. And surprisingly, he got some really good response. So I encourage you to not be boring all the time and just say, please see my attached resume and cover letter, but be a little bit bold in terms of trying different things. Okay, so these are the 3 ways he reached out to the VP and directors of the hockey teams. He used LinkedIn messaging, so he has the professional version of the LinkedIn account, which gives you so many in-mails per month. So he used that, but he also just then connected with people, right? He just reached out to people and said, can I connect? And then when they connected with him, then he sent them an email with his cover letter and resume. He did in the middle traditional email, right? So that's probably what most people use, what I would say in his process has been most effective. And then snail mail. Snail mail is what we use to reach out to the team owners. And I thought it would be wildly successful, and it didn't turn out to be that way. So you'll see here in a second. But I would encourage you to try snail mail every now and then, right? Handwritten note, you never know. It might get somebody's attention. It's different. It's certainly, people are not getting pieces of mail every day. I think the snail mail for the team owners, it may have been that the team owner never ever saw it because somebody else opens his mail, right? So, but it was a good exercise. He did every single letter customized. He paid his sister to help him address the envelopes, so she never liked her money. So it was an interesting, try and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to run through this quickly, but this is what happened with the actual process of his first contact, when they responded, the second contact, and then what's kind of happening ongoing. So for the VP and directors, he sent out to 200 individuals. He actually heard back from about 30% of that, which is a pretty high response rate, ironically. So 70 of them responded in some fashion, like, Alex, great to, thanks for your email, we don't have any openings right now, or thanks for your email, we're not hiring, or thanks for your email, go look at Teamworks, which is the job board that they use to hire hockey positions. Or in some cases, he had people that said, you know what, you've got a really good background, we're going to start hiring in July or August, keep in touch. Those are beautiful words to hear, keep in touch. That's all about your follow-up then, right? So of those 70, the 14 that said keep in touch, he reached back out to. And he, spent anywhere from a week to 2 weeks reaching back out. Of those 14, some of them fell off. They were just not responding. He had a few that said, no, we're still, things just haven't been posted, positions haven't been, advertised, but keep in touch. So he's got now 5 ongoing contacts in the hockey world that he is still pursuing. Team owners, not so much. We just had 10 people respond that they got his letter, and only 1 person actually gave him anything useful, but the only thing useful he gave him was, you should be talking to David Jones, who is the Vice President of Operations for the Hershey Bears, and he was already reaching out to David Jones. So, lesson learned, team owners was not effective here, but not saying that reaching out to high-level CEOs is not something you shouldn't do. Okay. His follow-up, like I said, was about every week to 2 weeks. Emails seemed to be the best response. I did encourage him to call a couple of the people that seemed to be most responsive. And at first he said, I can't do that. I don't want to call them. I'm nervous. It scares me. I said, well, why don't you come over and we'll sit down in one of our weekly sessions and we'll basically go through some role play. This is what I used to do with my salespeople. You go on a call, what are you going to say? If they say this, how are you going to respond? And so we actually role played him making the phone call, his message if he got voicemail, and his conversation if he got them live. And he didn't get anyone live, but he did leave 2 what I think very good voicemails. He did say in his voicemail that I'm going to follow up with you by email as well, and he did get a response that way. So, phone calls, they're scary. They're even scary for a salesperson, but sometimes it's worth doing. Making a phone call early in the morning when people, higher level people are getting into the office, they may answer the phone, right? And if you can get them on the phone live, that's a perfect opportunity to have that conversation.
I always found that actually later in the day, 6 o'clock onward, after all the junior assistants have left the office and they're answering their own phone, is a good time.
Right. Right. But does anybody answer their phone nowadays? That's the thing that I found. They do.
Yeah, because usually at that hour it's their spouse calling or something like that, or family.
I'm very judicious. If I don't know the number, sometimes I don't answer the phone. So
yeah.
But okay. All right. So, any questions before we move on? I'm going to give you run through the same process with just a general job search.
I've got a question. What happens if you contact the CEO and they're very unhappy, to put it mildly, about, and this happens because it's happened to me, I'm sure it's happened to others. You contact them and they kind of they don't like the fact that you've reached out to them. They want you to go through the traditional thing, and they actually blacklist you.
When you say they want you to go through the traditional thing,
they want you to go to HR. So what they do is they refer you to HR, and they make a blacklist in their book. Okay, this person doesn't,
follow the rules.
Follow the rules, yes. And so you're kind of and so you're completely screwed with that company. I've had that happen. And I'm not saying that's, I'm not saying that
now,
to discourage anyone about this, but
right. Were you responding to a job ad? Were you actually responding to a job that was posted?
I can't recall what it was, but there have been different instances of this. Not a lot, but a couple of enough to have sort of.
Okay, so I think there's 2 scenarios. One, if there's a job that's posted and you're applying for that job and it says to send your resume to HR and you call the CEO, then maybe if I were the CEO, I'd be annoyed too. The other scenario, which is what I'm talking about, is really just creating this
outside the realm of
outside the realm. You're reaching out to, Mary Evans, CEO, and you want Mary Evans to know about your background. Mary isn't hiring for anything in particular, but you've identified there's something that she might need help with. And I don't think, if I were Mary Evans and somebody could solve a problem that I have without me having to go find the solution, I'd want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So I think it depends, I think would be the answer. So.
Yeah, I think there's a difference in the way you reach out. If you reach out saying, I have a problem, Mr. CEO, that I want you to solve for me, versus you have a problem that I want to solve for you, that's a different reach out.
Oh yeah, of course, and that was I'm going to solve their problem. That's how I reached out to them. But some of them are just very process, bound.
Right. So I'm going to keep things moving along. Sorry, we'll have questions at the end, but Mark, you had a quick question.
I was just going to say, it's a matter of scale. Calling the president of General Motors because you want to change tires. I'm looking for a job as a mechanic. It's really small organizations, though. Presidents do a lot. It's individual. So.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm realizing the time. Am I okay, Ken?
Sure.
All right. So I'll make sure I've wrapped up within 15 minutes. How about
Sounds
that?
good. Yes.
It'll be good. Because this next part's going to go fairly quick. But so I mentioned, he had the focus on hockey teams, but also knew that was his dream. May not be reality. What does he do in terms of looking for things while the dream job comes to be? So he did basically what I think everyone in this room is doing. He's utilizing all the sources available. He's going to the job boards. He's using Indeed. That's the one that I know of. Most, it seems like Teamwork Online. That's for sports organizations. So a lot of people refer to him, go to Teamwork Online to see if there's anything posted. Certainly LinkedIn, we all know about that. Great source for not only contacts and referrals, but also jobs. And then what I consider to be the most important, which is your friends and family, right? So friends, family, and colleagues is probably a better way to describe it. People that can help you introduce you to somebody that they know that can help you with your job search. Someone told me just recently that first degree connections are not as useful as second degree connections, second or third degree connections in job searching. And I don't know why that is, but it sounded interesting to me. You think that people that already know you would help you first, but it sounds like this research has proven that second and third degree connections are actually better for you. So what Alex did in terms of, he used Indeed, he went on Teamwork Online, but he did take his mom up on a couple opportunities that she said, hey, you need to call my friend so-and-so. This friend actually invited him to the local Emmy production, which happened earlier in the summer. And at the production, there was the VP or whoever the main broadcaster was or is for the Washington Capitals. So he went and introduced himself. He said, gave him his card. He said, do you mind if I just call you sometime and just talk about, what I'm trying to do? And he said, sure. So they didn't meet in person, but he spent about 30 minutes on the phone with them and, gave him really good advice about, what he was doing, who he was contacting, and, he didn't get him a job, but he also validated what he was doing were the right steps to get the job that he wants. So he was really lucky for that in getting that. And, he definitely sent a thank you. I'm going to talk about thank yous here in a second. For anybody that helps you, even just responds to your email, you should thank them. Don't discount a thank you, how important that is and what it means, because people just are not that, what's the word? They just aren't sometimes that nice in terms of doing that. So that was what he was searching for, or using for his job search. Looking for communication, social media, journalism, broadcasting, videography. He just was kind of all over the place. We talked about this, networking, referrals, informational interviews. Again, something that, if you're out there looking and you just want to get a sense of what an organization is like, find somebody who's willing to sit down with you for a couple minutes on the phone. Somebody reached out to me, I don't know if they're here this morning, wanting to talk to me. They'd seen my presentation. I said, sure, I'll talk to you. We'll set up a time to talk for 15 or 20 minutes. So really encourage you to do that, and then the thank yous.
Quick question, how did he do in terms of responses from Teamwork Online? Like, did he map doing online applications and what the response rate was versus these?
I want to say that there hasn't been any positions posted yet on Teamwork. Yeah, it's late. In fact, I just chatted with him on Friday, and this season, for some reason, is slower in terms of, they haven't really gotten to they should be farther ahead in terms of their hiring. So I don't think that he's submitted anything on Teamwork.
Okay.
Yeah, so good question, though. Okay, so this is the activity tracker that I mentioned earlier, and it's also what he used to put together his list of contacts. I'm sure you can't see all the content that's on here, but basically it's just the name of the team, there's contact information, their title, email. I think he has phone on here. I just hid that column. But here is his section where he was tracking what he was doing in terms of, reaching out, what they were telling him. Said keep an eye out on Teamworks. Nothing available, willing to give advice. So keep in touch, followed up. So this was what I was looking for him to show me, that he was actually reaching out to people.
So is this just an Excel spreadsheet?
It sure is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there might be software for, or maybe it would be the sales software, so you could, keep up with it and have stuff. Because when you have 50 to 100 things going on, you're like, oh gosh, who was I supposed to follow up with and when? And you want that one to come up to the top.
I used to use Salesforce.com, which is what salespeople use. It's a customer relationship management system.
Yeah.
I am not aware of something electronic that does something like this. So if anybody...
But would you advise using Salesforce.com for something like this?
I don't know what it costs for an individual.
It's expensive.
I looked at things like that a while ago.
Yeah.
It seems like that professional is expensive for an individual.
Right.
Seems like this would be a great business idea.
Well, one of our 40+ colleagues is a big advocate of a system called Jibber Jobber.
Jibber Jobber.
Right, and it's a CRM for job search.
How do you spell it? Gibber?
Jobber. Jibber Jobber.
Is there a cost to it?
I don't recall, but it's modest because he was using it during his search.
Okay, so this is really important. 40 Plus, obviously advocates that you do this. It keeps yourself accountable to you. It also, I think, shows you that you're actually doing something and you aren't having results. It may not be yet the result you want in terms of a job, but when you see activity and you see that, oh wow, I did this week. Who said you? Somebody said their goal was 2 events a week. Right? So you can check off your, hey, I went to this event.